You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simeon Rusnak. It's the first Friday of the month, and that means it's time to welcome Chris Hall of McNally Robinson Booksellers with his suggestions in the What to Read feature. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Simon.
Well, it's great to be back with you. I was away last month on summer vacation, but was so thrilled that Chris could step in with a Chris squared edition of What to
Absolutely.
Read.
We did our best.
Well, you most certainly did. And here we are. It's September. I can hardly believe it myself. But getting back to routine now after the summer months, which is, typically a time of lazy reading, summer reading for many. And I have to admit, before we get to this month's suggestions, I found myself going to past What to Read segments for recommendations when I was on vacation. I finished those two Viet Thanh Nguyen books, The Sympathizer and The Committed. And now I'm reading, this is going a little ways back now, but reading Blackwater by David Robertson, all past suggestions.
Excellent.
Though for those who've been keeping up with your past picks, unlike me, I'm wondering, what have you got lined up this month?
Absolutely. Well, we're going to start with a science book. It's a bit of a unique science book. It's called Fuzz, When Nature Breaks the Law. It's by Mary Roach. And Mary Roach has written a number of science books, including Stiff, Gulp, Bonk, Grunt, Spook, and Packing for Mars, which are the curious science of human cadavers, eating, sex, war, the afterlife, and life in space, respectively. And now Mary Roach, she's known as America's funniest science writer. And it's true, she's very amusing while giving you some serious science. So this new one is about animals and plants that break the law. And it's inspired by a court case in 17th century Italy, where caterpillars were raging and eating everyone's vegetables, and they were taken to court. And you might not be surprised that the caterpillars did not show up at their hearing, but the attempt was to hold them accountable. So Roach takes off from there, and she explores bears that break and enter and eat from your fridge, and moose that jaywalk, and trees that commit murder, and many other felons from the natural world. So it's a very amusing, fun, light delivery of very interesting science. She's got a lot of fans, including us.
No kidding. It sounds like laws of nature versus our own little human laws.
Indeed,
it sounds
yes.
like a very approachable scientific read. This isn't a textbook, is it?
It is not. It is. It's a very fun way to get your science. Yeah, for sure.
I also imagine it just conjures up some wonderful images. And I was reading a little bit about it, and I saw there was forensic science and conservation genetics. It sort of sounds like it could also make a great TV series, watch out CSI or something like that. It could be really cool.
Yeah, I could imagine that.
So next on the list, a pretty highly anticipated novel from a best-selling author, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the new novel by Sally Rooney. It's called Beautiful World, Where Are You? And Sally Rooney has been very well known amongst us booksellers for conversations with friends and normal people. Normal People was made into a Netflix series, so she went even bigger and got a lot of more publicity. She is definitely a young author worth paying attention to. She's kind of exploring the world of the millennial generation, and she's setting herself apart. And she's really the best of a generation as it stands at the moment, I think. What lifts her so far above the norm is the way she writes about intimacies of friendships and couples. It's those moments when you should have said something, or said something and should have said something else, and the ways that those things get interpreted and misinterpreted. And then, of course, she explores this because these things are said via text and email and social media as well as in person these days. And then of course, there's the amount of kindness and generosity it takes to overcome those moments, as always. But I watch my daughter try to negotiate these sorts of things because young people are speaking more than in person. They're via text and so on. It leaves almost more room, in my impression at least, for these kinds of misinterpretations.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Where it's like, it's one of those things. I said it, I can't unsay it, but now I've written it, or I, sent a Snapchat or whatever it happens to be. Speaking of places to be, there's going to be an online global launch, and McNally Robinson is participating in that, isn't it? With Sally Rooney?
Yeah, it's very exciting opportunity for us. There's a bookseller in the UK, a bookseller in the US, and we are the bookseller in Canada. If you buy the book, you can pre-order it on our website. You'll get a coupon for a price break on buying a ticket to her virtual event that's coming from the UK. So yeah, it's for us, what a thrill to be associated with an event by Sally Rooney. It's really kind of for the bright sides that I'm trying to squeeze out of this situation, and this is certainly one of them.
Well, it sounds like you're well on your way to becoming bookseller of the world over there, Chris, because you're literally on the international stage now.
I'm on my way.
We are going to bring things a little bit closer to home with a Canadian author, a Giller Prize winner. Tell us about this latest from Andre Alexis.
Yeah, Andre Alexis has been one of my favorites for a long time. I was reading him before I became a bookseller, and that's now a long time ago. So this new novel is called Ring. He made his name really for a book called 15 Dogs, which won the Giller Prize. Mm-hmm. He's written others of Pastoral, The Hidden Keys, and Days My Moonlight. And I named those 5 novels because they are now comprise a group that he's now completed called a quincunx, which is a book word I was not familiar with, and didn't even know how to say until I practiced for this segment, and Andre Alexis introduced me to what it was. But each book plays with a different genre. So this one, Ring, turns on the romance novel, and he turns it on its head. The jacket copy says it mixes Danielle Steele with Martin Heidegger. So it's good intellectual fun is how I would describe it. The main character, Gwen, falls in love, and that prompts her mother to give her a ring, which is passed down in their family from mother to daughter for generations over centuries. And the ring gives 3 wishes to the daughter, 3 chances to change something about their beloved. And then the novel explores the questions of what changing and controlling things about our partner, what are the ramifications of that power, among many other things. He's a very thoughtful, kind of philosophical kind of writer. But it's a mix of highbrow and lowbrow, I guess, is what you'd say. So I really have enjoyed these novels.
Yeah, it sounds like a great read. From a sort of romance novel to a memoir next on the list, and a Manitoba-born author, right?
Yes, exactly. Coming even closer to home. This is called A Permanent Astonishment, and it's a memoir by Thompson Highway. So Thompson Highway is known around the world. He's written a novel, Kiss of the Fur Queen, as well as plays like Dry Lips Ought to Move to Kappa's Casing, Res Sisters. He's got several books for children, and that's just his accomplishment in the book world. He's well known as a pianist and performer as well. So this is a memoir, as I say, and it is as full of energy and laughter as you'd expect if you're familiar with his work. I commented that I was having to catch my breath between each chapter. It's just it's quite a read. So Thompson Highway grew up in the far north of Manitoba. He went to residential school in the Pas. The Pas qualified as the South for them. If you look on a map, you might be quite taken by surprise by how much farther north Manitoba stretches from the Pas. So that's where he grew up. He was the second last of 11 siblings and was particularly close to his younger brother, Rene. Rene became a world-renowned dancer, but in 1990, he died of an AIDS-related illness. And Thompson's memoir is inspired by Rene's final words, "Don't mourn me, be joyful." And the book is certainly joyful.
Well, it certainly sounds like it, and it sounds like an absolutely fascinating read. I mean, you mentioned just some of the paths that he's traveled in his career, and of course, being a classical music radio station, his path as a classical pianist, of course, is one that caught my eye right away.
Yep.
And now we've got one more pick for this month. Tell us about The Strangers.
The Strangers. Well, I guess I'm coming all the way home to Winnipeg now. So The Strangers is by Katrina Vermette. She is a McNally Robinson favorite. Wrote a book called The Break, which we were very excited and keen on, and we've sold a lot of copies. Very important book for Winnipeggers and Canadians to read. But she's also a poet. She's got poetry collections and again, several books for children in our kids section. So The Break told the story of a family of Indigenous people in Winnipeg, and now this new novel takes one of those characters, Phoenix, and continues her story from where it left off. So Phoenix and her sister Cedar have grown up apart from each other and apart from their mother Elsie in a series of foster homes. The story in this book, it's about the pain and trauma that caused the situation and then served to perpetuate it, and the struggle of these women and as they try to get their families to rise above it, themselves to rise above it, and find some way in this life. I would describe Vermette as one of those young authors to watch too. Very, very good Canadian author. I think as many Canadians as possible should read her books. We can't recommend The Break highly enough, and now we're not going to be able to recommend Strangers high enough. So I would get your name in for a copy of that and read it as soon as possible.
Absolutely. And it sounds like she is going to be at McNally Robinson. Is that right?
Yes, we are hoping for some events. We're going to try some hybrid events, which will continue to go out virtually, but we're hoping to be able to have an audience in person and get the best of both worlds from it. So yes, there are going to be a number starting in a couple of weeks here.
Yeah, and speaking of events, of course, there's also Fin Air 2021, the Writers Festival, which is coming up at the end of the month. And we'll have to have you back on to tell us a little bit more about that, Chris. It sounds like it's going to be a good one. Again, that hybrid model, right? Online, but also hopefully in person.
Yeah, absolutely. We've worked with the good folks there for a number of years. So yeah, we're trying to pool all our resources and have as good a fun as we can have in this COVID time.
Well, Chris, wishing you well. Thanks as always for the suggestions. And if you're looking for Chris's picks, you can find them up at McNallyRobinson.com or Classic107.com as well.